My mom found out my income, so she showed up with my spoiled brother and demanded I give her money as if she were collecting rent for the years I'd spent under her roof. I didn't even know how she'd found out. I never talked about my job, never bragged, never posted anything flashy online. But somehow she'd learned that I'd been promoted, that my salary had gone up, and that I'd been doing well enough to buy a small 2-bedroom condo on the quiet side of town. The moment I saw her car pull up in front of my building with my brother lounging in the passenger seat like a bored prince, I had a bad feeling. My mother had that look, chin high, lips pursed, the look she used to give me when she was about to lecture me about family duty. I hadn't seen her much in the last year. The distance wasn't exactly intentional, it was more like emotional self-preservation. Growing up, I was the responsible one, the one who got a part-time job at 16 to pay for my own clothes while my brother, Evan, was treated like the golden child. Mom always said he was sensitive, that he needed extra attention. What that meant in practice was that I had to do the dishes when he refused, I had to share my allowance when he spent his, and when I tried to protest, I was told I was being selfish. So, yeah, I'd learned to keep my distance. But apparently, no distance was far enough once she smelled money. They didn't even call first. I was halfway through making lunch when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw her standing there in a floral blouse and 2 tight jeans, clutching her purse like she was about to enter a business meeting. Evan leaned against the wall scrolling on his phone, dressed in his usual designer hoodie, one I was pretty sure Mom had bought him despite her claims that she was barely getting by. When I opened the door, she swept inside like she owned the place. "So this is where my son lives now," she said, glancing around as if inspecting it for cleanliness. "Not bad at all. Hi to you too," I said, closing the door. "You could have called first." "Oh, I didn't want to bother you," she said in that tone that meant the exact opposite. "We were in the neighborhood." "In the neighborhood? You live 40 minutes away." She ignored me and plopped down on the couch. Evan followed, kicking off his shoes and stretching out like he'd come to stay the night. I could feel the tension already coiling in my chest. "So," she began, crossing her legs, "I heard you've been doing very well for yourself lately." My stomach sank. "Who told you that?" "Doesn't matter who," she said lightly. "News travels. I'm your mother. I'm happy for you, of course, but I think it's time we had a talk about family responsibility." That phrase, family responsibility, was her favorite weapon. It was how she justified everything from borrowing money to guilt-tripping me into babysitting Evan when I was in high school. I sat across from her, trying to keep my voice calm. "What kind of talk?" She smiled, the kind of smile that never reached her eyes. "Well, you know things have been hard lately. Rent's gone up, groceries are outrageous. Your brother's been trying to get his business off the ground." I almost laughed. Evan's business was a string of failed online ventures that amounted to him buying gadgets and claiming he'd start a tech review channel. He'd been trying for years. "And," I asked. "And," she said, "you're in a position to help. You're making more money than you need right now. It's only fair that you contribute to the family that raised you. We supported you all these years." I took a slow breath. "Mom, I already send you money every month. $200, she snapped. "That barely covers groceries for a week. And you bought this nice condo while your family struggles. How do you think that looks?" I stared at her. "It looks like I worked hard for something. I pay my bills. I budget. I didn't spend my 20s mooching off people." Evan snorted without looking up from his phone. "Oh, here we go. Mr. Perfect's gonna lecture us." I ignored him. "Mom, I get that things are tough, but I'm not your ATM. I've helped when I could. I'm not responsible for you too." Her eyes flashed. "That's a horrible thing to say to your mother. After everything I sacrificed for you, and this is the thanks I get. You think you're better than us now." "No," I said quietly. "I think I'm tired." She launched into a rant about respect, about how family sticks together, how Evan just needed one more break to get on his feet. It was the same speech I'd heard my whole life, recycled and dressed up with guilt. I let her talk until she started hinting that maybe I could co-sign a loan for them. That's when I stood up. "Mom, stop. I'm not giving you money, and I'm not signing anything." The silence that followed was heavy. Evan finally looked up, eyes narrowing. "Wow, you really think you made it, huh? Acting all high and mighty because you got a fancy job. Fancy, I said. I work 60 hours a week. You could do the same. Whatever, he muttered. I'm not meant to be some office drone. Mom stood too, her face hardening. You're really going to let your family suffer while you live in comfort? Do you know how heartless that sounds? Do you know how manipulative you sound? I shot back. Her mouth fell open, and for once she didn't have a quick retort. I didn't raise my voice often, but something in me snapped. Years of being the responsible one, the peacekeeper, the provider, it all boiled up. You've always done this, I said. You make me feel guilty for having anything. You call it family duty, but it's just control. I worked for this life. I earned it, and I'm not going to apologize for being independent. She blinked, stunned. Evan shifted uncomfortably. For a moment, I thought she might actually hear me. But then her expression hardened again. I see, she said coldly. Well, don't come crying to me when you need family one day. Because you won't have any. And just like that, she grabbed her purse and stormed out. Evan lingered for a second, glaring. You're a real jerk, you know that, he said before following her out. When the door closed, I just stood there, heart pounding, the silence of my apartment pressing in. I knew she'd call again. She always did, but part of me also knew that this time, something had shifted. Over the next few days, I replayed the scene in my head 100 times. Guilt would hit me in waves, because that's what guilt does when it's been trained into you since childhood. I thought about calling her to apologize, but then I'd remember the look in her eyes, the entitlement, the expectation that I owed her. And every time, I stopped myself. Then the messages started. First a few texts from her. We need to talk. You can't ignore your mother forever. Your brother's in trouble. You need to help. I didn't respond. Then Evan began calling, leaving voicemails about how he needed just a small loan to pay back someone he owed. It became obvious that their visit hadn't been random. They were desperate, and I was their plan. A week later, Mom showed up again, this time alone. I debated not answering the door, but the knocking didn't stop. When I finally opened it, she looked tired, almost deflated. I'm not here to argue, she said. I just want to talk. I let her in, wary. She sat down quietly, hands clasped. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, you're right, maybe I've pushed too hard. It was the last thing I expected to. Here, Mom, she sighed. You know, I didn't mean to make you feel used. I just worry. You're my only child who made something of himself. I thought, maybe you could help lift the family up. When I see you doing well, it reminds me how much I failed with everything else. Her words softened something in me. You didn't fail, I said. You did what you could. But I leaned on you too much, she admitted. I see that now. Still, Evan's in a mess. He borrowed from someone he shouldn't have, and they're threatening him. I don't know what to do. The familiar trap, the plea wrapped in vulnerability, hovered between us. I wanted to help, but I also knew that bailing Evan out again would just enable him. He has to face the consequences, I said carefully. You can't keep rescuing him. Neither can I. Tears welled in her eyes. For a second, I saw the woman who used to hug me after nightmares, before everything between us got complicated. I don't know how to stop being his mother, she whispered. I know, I said. But being his mother doesn't mean destroying yourself, or me, for him. She nodded slowly. There was no miracle reconciliation, no tearful embrace. Just a quiet understanding that maybe things had gone too far. When she left, she hugged me briefly and said, "Take care of yourself." Weeks passed. I didn't hear from them again for a while. Then one night, Evan called. I got a job, he said. His voice was tentative, almost embarrassed. Just warehouse stuff, but it's something. That's good, I said. And I meant it. After that, things shifted bit by bit. Mom started texting me small things, recipes, photos of the garden. Nothing about money. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Sometimes I think about that day she showed up, how furious and hurt we both were. It took me a long time to see that her demands weren't just greed, they were fear. Fear of losing control, fear of being left behind. And my anger wasn't just about money, it was about years of being unseen. We'd both been playing roles handed to us long ago, and it took an explosion to step out of them. Even now, there are moments I feel that old tug of guilt, that voice saying I should do more, give more. But I remind myself that boundaries aren't cruelty, they're care in another form. They keep love from curdling into resentment. I don't know what will happen next between us. Maybe we'll rebuild something gentler. Maybe we'll always circle each other cautiously. But for the first time, I'm living a life that feels like mine, and that's something no one can demand I give away.